Hi everybody, welcome to Tidal Wave Studio. My name is Patrick Damiani and today I want to show you a kind of Swiss Army knife of drum editing tools. A couple of weeks ago I have been approached by the company Sonnox and they asked me if I was interested in beta testing their new upcoming Drum Gate 2 plugin. I said yes because I'm very curious and I haven't had a lot of luck with drum gates so far, so I was curious to see what they would come up with. And I tried it and I genuinely really liked it, so I wanted to share what I found out with you, show you around the plugin a little bit, so maybe that helps you decide whether it's a tool that you want to have or not. Let's dive in and listen to a little part of a drum recording that I made that I'm going to use to demonstrate the plugin a little bit for you. I don't use drum gates a lot, and if I try some, then it would most of the time be on toms, because I want them to be free of cymbals, I want them really clean, and only where they are actually playing and cut off all the rest. So let's see how this plugin behaves here. I'm going to solo a rec tom here. Yeah, it's a typical scenario. We have a lot of cymbal bleeding into that tom, and let's see if we can get rid of it. Okay, I'm going to pull up one of these Drum Gate 2 plugins and let's get a quick overview first. So the very first thing you should do is tell the plugin what kind of signal we are going to listen to. So this is a tom, so I'm going to select tom from this little drop-down menu. And now we have different sections in this plugin. First of which is like a detection path, where the plugin is deciding is that something we want to keep or we want to get rid of it. Then we have a decay section where we can shape the envelope of the hits that are passing through the gate. Then we have some extra features that I'm going to show you in a second. So let's start with the detection path of this plugin. There are two views in this detection module of the plugin. First of which is the normal classic threshold view where you see all the drum hits and you set the threshold and say everything above threshold shall pass and everything below the threshold shall not pass. Okay, let's see how this works on this tom track. Okay, we can hear it's detecting toms already really nicely. We have one hit here that we don't really want because that's actually a floor tom and not the rec tom. That one. So let's see if we can get rid of it with using threshold only. Now it's already gone. So that would be the easiest way and it seems to work really nicely. And if I now look at this confidence view, this looks a little bit different. As we can see, we have like blue spikes and those represent detected and confidently identified as tom hits. So what is interesting is that the level or the supposed level that is indicated here is not the actual audio level of those hits, but it's the confidence level for these hits. Well, that means that the plugin is really sure that this is a tom hit. And the higher this spike is, the more certain the plugin is that this is a tom hit. So although, for example, this last hit here is lower in volume, the plugin is very confident that this is a tom hit, and it's very right in doing so. Now this tom track has been detected really nicely, but let's assume that, for example, we have trouble getting rid of one or two false detections. And there is a really nice way of removing or telling the plugin which kind of sounds could be misinterpreted as a tom hit in this case, but is really waste and we want to get rid of it. And that's actually a really cool function. I'm going to show you this. So I'm going to lowering the threshold first so that we get a false trigger here. But now we can tell the plugin manually that whatever it is hearing in this area is not what we want. So we have a remove button here, so I can tell it to remove whatever it's hearing in this part here. Okay, now I stop it and it has learned that whatever happens here is not what we want. And the interesting thing is, first of all, it's gotten rid of that one hit without me having to change anything on the threshold. But the very important thing is that it kind of learns what's going on in this removed part and it applies it to all next parts where something similar happens. So if we are going to jump to another part where this floor tom is bleeding into the rec tom, it knows, he told me that this kind of sound is unwanted, so it's going to remove this from the detection. And that's actually really brilliant because you only need to learn one or two parts where something like this happens, and then it's going to memorize that this is not what we want and only leave through the actual wanted hits. That is super, super helpful and a huge time saver. Okay, so now we have a really good detection, but this is very short now. We don't want a tom that sounds like pok pok. We want it to have a little bit of natural sustain. So let's move on to the next section, which is the decay section, and see what we have here. I'm going to set everything to flat first, and we see what's going to happen. I'm going to loop that little part here because this is our example now. Okay, I removed any reduction. Let's maybe start with this. Let's see how much reduction we want even to apply. Okay, I'm going to raise the decay a little bit because this is ridiculously short. I personally don't need to have like a full gain reduction like this. A little bit of bleed is fine, and sometimes if you don't exaggerate the gain reduction, the resulting sound is more natural than if it's really cut off completely. But that's up to you. Let's go like for 25 dB of reduction as a start. The decay is very, very short. Let's see how far up we can go until we get back those cymbals again. What is interesting here is that we have a kind of spectral analyzing thing going on in the plugin. So here we see the tom, the low end, this is low frequencies up to high frequencies. And here we can see the cymbal hit that is being played. If I play it again, you can see the cymbal being played here. So what we can do is we choose a basic general decay that we like, and then we can go in and tweak the decay for the low end of the tom only. So we get rid of all the high-end stuff, only keep a short impact on the punch of the drum, and then only keep the low-end sustain, which is pretty much exactly the same that I would do if I would go in and edit this manually. Like cut everything clean, cut the waste off on both sides, do a little fade out, and use spectral editing to remove only that cymbal bleed in the high end. And let's see if we can do this in the plugin. Okay, I'm going to raise the decay only on the low end of the tom. Okay, we still have a tiny little bit of cymbal, but I could go in and just remove it by lowering the gain reduction even more. But I want to keep it a little bit more natural, so this tiny little bit of bleed is perfectly fine for me. You're not going to hear this in the context of the song. I'm very happy with this result. So there are a couple more things that we could tweak here, like high frequency damping and shorten decay on softer hits. But I'm going to keep this for another part of the drum and leave the tom the way it is now. Okay, let's move on to kick drum and see how this plugin works on a kick drum. Okay, let's listen to it in solo without any processing. There is not a huge lot of bleed, but let's assume you want to get rid of everything. Okay, I'm going to tell the plugin that we're working on a kick drum first. Now what's interesting is that our threshold is a little bit below the snare hits in between. But since we told the plugin that we're working on a kick drum track, in this confidence view, we can see that there is a high confidence on the actual kick drum hits and no confidence for the snare hits. So in a normal gate plugin, these snare hits would pass through because they are above threshold. But here, this intelligent detection path knows what a kick drum sounds like and is only letting kick drums through. Now let's have a look at the decay. It's also, we started pretty short. I want a little bit more sustain on the low end. It's working perfectly. Oh, by the way, if you want to see how these drums have been recorded and mixed from scratch to finish, you can check out this video here. It shows the complete process. Let's have a look at another feature of this plugin, which is the level feature. It is supposed to even out the dynamics of a drum performance automatically. There are plugins like Drum Leveler that I've been using for years that is doing a similar job. So it's taking loud hits and making them a little bit quieter, or taking quiet hits and making them louder without having to use compression. Compression is also changing the sound, not only the volume. So if you want to have basically an automated clip gain work done for you, this is for you. Now we can define how loud we want the hits to be, either softer or louder, and tell the plugin how much leveling it should apply. Let's see how this works. So you see, if I put the leveling slider to 100%, it's putting all the hits to exactly the same volume. We can work around a little bit, tell it, yeah, just even out a little bit, maybe 50% to keep a little bit of the original dynamics. But sometimes you want every hit to be exactly the same for whatever reasons. And here you have the possibility to do so. And it's really very inaudible. You don't have any compression artifacts or compression behavior sonically. It's just like a clip gain that is done automatically for you. We have a couple more settings that we can tweak here, but this is best shown on something like snare drum, which we are going to try out right now. Let's listen to it without any processing first. So we have a lot of bleed. Okay, so let's put on the gate. We tell it we are looking for snare drum. And now let's work on the detection first. It's working nicely right out of the box. We are looking at this confidence view now, and as you can see, the ghost notes appear to be as loud or as confidently identified as the main hits, which is really cool. I'm going to raise the fundamental part of the snare drum to get a little bit more sustain here. Okay, I'm happy with the general decay now. Now let's see if you can get rid of a little bit more unwanted high frequencies. So we have all the ghost notes in, we have all the hits correctly detected, and in the context you can hear everything that you're supposed to hear. Now let's check again this leveler function, because there are one or two things that I didn't show yet. Let's go in and try and even this out a little bit. Here we can see we have one hit that's a little bit soft, so maybe we want it to be in the same level as the hits around. But then we have some rolls, like here for example, that we definitely don't want to raise to full volume, because that would be ridiculous. So now what comes into play is this split lever here, where we can tell the plugin which are loud hits and which are soft hits. So all the ghost notes and those rolls are supposed to be detected as soft hits and stay unleveled, and we only want to level the loud hits. So let's see if we can put this slider in the correct position. Okay, we've got that sorted out. Now let's see if we can level out the loud hits only. So now this hit that was a little bit too soft before is getting pulled up to the same level as the surrounding hits. But the ghost notes stay quiet the way they should be. But let's see what we could do to the ghost notes if we wanted to. Let's say we want to level out the ghost notes a little bit, or increase the volume of the ghost notes only. That's something we can do now. So we have two controls to take care of those soft hits. One is the target loudness, and one is the amount of leveling that we are going to apply. So let's assume we set this to 100%, then all the soft hits would land on this loudness. So let's set this a little bit softer than the loud hits, but louder than they are now, and apply some leveling and see what happens. Listen to the ghost notes only, how they change in volume. Take care of the volume of the ghost notes only, which is a feature I have not seen anywhere else. Some drummers have very, very soft ghost notes, and if you want to make them more audible, you can use this to pull them up a little bit. Or if they are too loud, you can pull them down. Or if they are uneven, you can level them out to whatever degree you want. That's a really unique feature, and I like it a lot. Now we have another feature built in here which is really nice, especially on snare drum, and that is a clipper. And really cool is that you can clip the loud signals independently from the soft signals. So you can only apply a tiny little bit of clipping to, let's say, the loud snare hits. That's something I do all the time with snare drums. Why do I do this? Well, first of all, you take care of really loud spikes, like peaks in the volume of the snare, which would have to be caught up by a limiter later, let's say on the mix bus. But if you apply a little bit of clipping on the snare, those peaks are already taken care of, and the limiter doesn't have to react to every single snare hit, and just can let the snare sound much more natural while being also very present and loud. Your snare is getting less lost in the mix if you apply a little bit of clipping than if you only use compression and limiting on the snare. Check this out and have a look at the peak meter on this track and see that although the perceived loudness of the snare is going to increase when I apply some clipping, the peaks are going to get even softer than without the clipping. So louder with lower peaks, which is a really great combination. So without the clipping, we have the peaks here. Now I'm going to go full clip just to demonstrate it. So now, although the peak meter is showing lower values, the snare is equally loud. So if we wanted, we could now raise the volume of our clipped snare track to the same peaks as we had before without the clipper and gain a lot of volume without gaining peaks, which is awesome, and also resulting in a much more natural sounding snare drum than if we had to shave it off with a limiter later. And now we have one more feature which is really going to be helpful for a lot of people, which is the phase alignment thing that this plugin can do. So first of all, I'm going to apply one of these gates on every track, but we're not going to use it as a gate or anything. We're only going to use it for alignment. So in this first drop-down menu, you can select alignment only, and it's not going to apply any gating whatsoever. It's only going to analyze the track and check for phase relationship between all the tracks where this plugin is applied. So I'm going to copy-paste this to the other tracks now. And as you can see, if your tracks are labeled correctly, the plugin knows which is a kick drum, snare track, the toms, the heads, overheads, and the rooms. It's going to put everything into its own category. And if I remember correctly, the plugin will take the overheads as reference and move everything else around so that it matches the overheads and have an intact phase relationship between all the tracks. So now we are going to click Analyze in any of those instances of this plugin, and it's going to start the analyzing process on all the other tracks as well. And then we let it listen to at least 10 seconds of material so that it has enough information to check the phase relationship between all the tracks. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and then we see what happens. So now it says time shift and phase rotation are being applied, and you see that it switched the polarity on some of the tracks and sample delayed some of the tracks so that they fit perfectly together now. So yeah, this sounds a little bit more punchy than it was before, especially the snare is a little bit more compact and solid. You could argue whether it's a good idea or not to put this on room tracks, because having this time delay on the room track is a little bit like having pre-delay on a reverb, giving you a sense of depth of a room, especially on drums in this case. So you can try and see if you like it, or just exclude the room track, for example, from this process and tighten up only the spot mics and leave the room tracks a little bit later to give this depth. But at least this plugin can help you just fix phase problems in case you missed something. So this is why I call this plugin a Swiss Army knife of drum editing. You have a really good gate with excellent detection, this frequency dependent decay thing, you have a leveler built in, a really solid clipper, and then the whole phase alignment thing. So this is basically 4 plugins built into one, and they all work really, really well. I hope you like this little walkthrough, and I hope it helps you decide whether you want to give it a go and see if it works for you as well. And I say thank you for watching this whole video. See you in another one. Take care. Bye-bye.